why you're doing this interview. Is this something that you're speaking out about now?
Well, this is very close to my heart in that I know what it's like to be hopeless. And I was hopeless for a lot of years after everything happened. And along my journey, I found hope in God. And I just want to share that with people because it made such a drastic difference in my life. You can't help but want to share it with people.
You were raised in a religious family, but what's the difference now? And what kind of, I mean, was it a gradual coming on, or was it just like one day, middle of the night, God?
Well, I was raised a very Old Testament belief system, and I thought God was just a big judge in the sky waiting to catch me doing something wrong and punish me. So that, I guess, it made me rebellious towards him. It made me think that, you know, it didn't give me anything or any reason to want to try and please him. I just thought, I'll just do it to make my parents happy and whatever the rules are, you know. So after Ruby Ridge happened, I really wanted nothing to do with him. But, you know, I lived without him and without a proper understanding of him for a lot of years. And one day, and it's kind of a long story leading up to it because, you know, I had come away from Ruby Ridge experiencing a lot of depression, a lot of post-traumatic stress, a huge desire to leave it all behind me, to sort of, if I can run from it and pretend it never happened, then, you know, I'll be okay. Obviously, that only works for a while. And it took some years. It took about 10 years, and it took me being a young mom and the struggles that come with that, to finally get to a place where I needed some answers. And I knew my mom had loved God deeply, and I didn't quite understand that. And I thought, if I can only understand that, then maybe some of this will make sense in my own life. And I was struggling to the point where I didn't know how to be happy. I had all of the things on the outside that the world tells you would make you happy, but I wasn't happy. I was miserable all the time, just sad and depressed, and I'd never dealt with all of the feelings and the emotions that had come from the trauma that I experienced. I just sort of stuffed them and ran away from them. And my son was probably 2 years old, and we had just moved into a new house that we had built. And I had all of the things that I'd set out to achieve. I had the house, you know, the 2 cars, the beautiful child, you know, what I thought was a great marriage, and I had a horse to ride, you know, I had all these things that, and I thought, there's something wrong with me. There has to be something wrong with me because I should be happy. And one day, my husband at the time put a pen and a piece of paper in front of me, and he said, "Sarah, write down what's going to make you happy." And I realized I had nothing I could write down. I had achieved everything that the world tells you will make you happy, and I was still miserable. And that scared me. And so...
Because you were probably, what, in your mid-20s at that point?
Yeah, I was probably 28.
Okay, yeah.
I'd have to think back. Maybe it was 26 or 7, somewhere in there.
But you're young enough in your life that if you look ahead and think, there's nothing that's ever going to make me happy, that's pretty hopeless.
It was terrible, you know, and I had all these things that are supposed to make me happy, and they didn't. I'm like, what is wrong with me? So one day, my very best friend, Maria, who I grew up with in North Idaho, she had moved to California and gotten married and had a child of her own, and we still stayed in contact. She's still, I count her, one of my very best friends ever. She came to visit me, brought her baby, and we were just sitting and talking, and I started to talk about religion with her. And she just looked me in the eye and she said, "Sarah, I know Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior." And I went, whoa, I just kind of shut up. Because I didn't learn much about Jesus, even though I grew up in a religious family. I had just learned about the Old Testament and all the laws that you're supposed to keep to be good enough for God. And I didn't know the grace side of it. So after she shared that with me, it wouldn't leave me alone. She went back home to California, and that's when I started searching for the answers. And so one day I was having just a particularly hard time. I dug out my mom's Bible, and I thought, maybe I can find some answers here. But it was a different version. They had changed some things in it, and as I read it, I just got agitated. I thought, this isn't working. Why am I not finding what I need to find? So I put it down, and I dug out a Bible that had been given to me in Sunday school when I was 7 years old. It was a King James Version. And I'd only ever memorized one verse in my entire life, and it came to me at that moment. I hadn't thought about it over the years, but it was John 3:16. And I'd never memorized verses in the Old Testament. I just followed the rules. So I went to that verse, John 3:16, and it said, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him would not perish, but have everlasting life." And that moment, I felt God's love just pour out on me from heaven. I started bawling. I knew that Jesus was real. I knew he loved me. I knew he wasn't just a judge waiting to catch me doing something wrong at that moment. I met God for the first time, and it impacted me, I like to say, even more than Ruby Ridge did, because he lifted the weight of the world from my shoulders at that moment, and it literally was a miracle in my life.
It's amazing. It has to be hard to tell people that, because if they didn't experience it themselves, it's hard to make people feel that.
Yeah.
But you don't have a problem telling people and saying, this is it, folks. So
I don't, and there will be people that think I'm crazy, and I don't blame them, because I didn't want anything to do with God. I thought, God and religion and the things my parents believed was part of the reason my life ended up the way it did. And I don't expect people to just take my word for it, but I would hope that they would explore their own faith a little bit more and maybe ask him to make himself real to them. I challenge them to ask him, because he's very real, and it was a miracle in my life. I don't believe I should be sitting here today, but he's shown me that he has a reason and a purpose for me to be here today.
Where would you have been if that had never happened? Do you
Honestly,
think about that?
I should be. You mean if Ruby Ridge had never happened?
No, if this epiphany didn't happen for you, if this.
Oh wow, who knows? I've been pretty hopeless, pretty darn hopeless in the past. I was in a very, very sad place, and I don't believe I would probably be sitting here talking to you. I think God in his mercy spared me, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And this is his story. It's not even mine, it's his.
It's pretty amazing. I think people would be surprised. And it's just interesting that you differentiate between the religion you were brought up in, because I think some people would say, well, that is the problem with organized religion, or that's the problem with religion is these beliefs and this is what happened. But you differentiating between the two, that's a pretty big thing, I think, and for you to recognize the difference and kind of give it another shot, so to speak.
Yes, I didn't recognize the difference in the beginning. It wasn't until I had a revelation of God's grace and the fact that I can't add to it or take anything away from it. Jesus died for me because he loves me, and his grace covers everything about me that is not perfect. I don't have to be perfect. I can be myself, and I can know that he loves me no matter what. I don't have to do everything right to earn his love. There's nothing I can do to earn anything from him. He's already given it to me. I just have to believe it and rest in it and trust him.
Are you happy now?
I am. I think I've had some of the happiest years of my life since 2003, when I met Jesus for the first time.